All right, so welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where we're here to live a life of purpose, to flourish and be fulfilled in all areas of our life. So it's been coming up around the village, and really, I really think that this would benefit a lot of people, including myself, about developing oneself as a resource and to only do your best. So, developing oneself as a resource. What first can you distinguish that for us, and what you see that being?
Sure. Let me just what's coming through immediately is the conversation about being an adult. Um, in this context, adults care for others, and children need to be cared for. If you look at adult from that position, you may notice that most people who are living in full-grown bodies are actually children. I'll open that up a little bit. People need to be spoken to a certain way. People need to be addressed a certain way. They are demanding of other people. No, we have to go do this activity. We have to agree on this, that, or the other. Uh, it comes up a lot, and it's ever more subtle the more you look at it. So a child, is waiting for direction, waiting for instructions, waiting to be told what's right and wrong, waiting to be told what to do, when to do it. But when full-grown people are children, it's not it is hidden, right? I need you to conform to how I think you should be, but so I can feel okay about myself, but I'm not going to be honest about it. I'm just going to make you wrong or embarrass you or chastise you or judge you or criticize you or or whatever when you're doing something wrong. But wrong is secret code for I don't like it. So a resource is somebody who is choosing to take responsibility for their reality and make themselves strong. I'm reminded of I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about a Bible quote. He was the specific. I don't really know the whole quote. I just, as I interact with most Bible quotes, I just know the shortest part of it. But the meek shall inherit the earth. And I never liked that because I don't consider myself meek, and I don't aspire to be meek because I heard meek as weak. And so I don't aspire to be weak. I'm not interested in being weak. I'm not moving in that direction. I'm not, that just doesn't resonate with me. And he corrected the misunderstanding. And someone who is meek is someone who is actually dangerous, but chooses to, as he put it, chooses to somebody who can wield a sword expertly and for effect, but chooses to keep it sheathed. So that's the meek. So now when you say the meek shall inherit the earth, I'm down with that. I've developed myself to be strong and capable, and you know I live by the masculine role of serve, support, and protect. And I've taken all three of those seriously, including protect. And I've made myself a dangerous man on purpose and by design. I've lived a lot of my life in very difficult, very dangerous environments. And so being weak in some of the places that I grew up in would not be a recipe for anything good. Now, if you say, oh, a dangerous man who chooses to be gentle, now that's something I can resonate with, and that's something I have inspiration about, and that's something I can aspire to, and I'm inspired by and can aspire to. So, an adult is someone who has transcended childhood. I was once needy, and I was once always looking for direction and needing people to be okay so I could be okay, needing people to agree with me. Um, I'm trying to think of a list of examples, but I think it's getting clear. And at some point, well, actually, I transcended that in my first transformational weekend. That was a landmark forum in 1996, I believe. And I realized that I was in the world specifically to get mine, to manipulate, to lie, to cheat and steal, which I did professionally and personally. I was a business to business salesperson. I got really good at it, but it wasn't through high ethics or high morals or high character. It was, I learned how to manipulate people. Absolutely, positively, no doubt about it. And so I consider that a child. I didn't become an adult until I was about 36, when I realized that I was I was somebody that I could not be proud of. I was somebody that I didn't like. I was somebody who used their intellect and charm and capacity to take rather than to give, to be a black hole rather than a supernova, to use people rather than to be a contribution. And so that really hit me hard. And I remember sitting there in my seat choosing to be a man of character, which I put very simply, I mean, I could probably dig into it, but I put it very simply as choosing to do the right thing when nobody's looking. So that's, and so that's what I consider adult. And, to serve, support, and protect, you must be strong and you must be able and you must be someone who obviously makes mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. You learn great lessons from your mistakes. One of the ways I deal with myself, like I return back to centered and peaceful and forgive myself when I do something stupid or make a mistake or fail to perform in a way that I expected to perform, is I learn a lesson. Like I create, I stick with it until I learn a lesson. And I want to make sure that lesson, the value of the lesson far exceeds the damage of the failure. And by doing so, I tend to make mistakes not very many times in a row. I'd like to be someone who makes a mistake once, learns a great lesson, and then, transcends the failure by bringing the lesson up with me to the next level. And so, for me, an adult is someone who lives by that, who chooses to be strong and overflow that strength into the world, into the people around them. And so, at Earthquaking University and at Awaken Life Live specifically, we have a very impactful conversation that asks, what are the three things you saw missing in the world, especially when you were growing up? And for me, it was light, love, and connection. So so I spent the first half of my life, like pre-transformation, looking for light, love, and connection, and actually passed that. I wish I had seen it right away, but it took me a minute, which is code for many years, um, to really get at the source of that. That I'm light, love, and connection. Light, love, and connection exists where I am. And so at this stage of my life, I'm no longer looking for love. I'm the source of love. I'm no longer, and I'm not ultimately the source of love, but I'm the source of letting love come through me. And the light that I speak of is the light of possibility, the light of a brighter future, the light of anything's possible. And the connection that I speak of is, literally interdependent with people, like connected with people. I was once dependent, and then I was codependent, and then I was independent, and now I'm interdependent. And I have this beautiful community with which I'm interdependent, and it is my privilege and choice and decision to be the source of light, love, and connection in this interdependent community. And some of my roles include a leadership program and, you know, um, culture development for this new earth and our village, and to be passed on into the future. So um, for me, that's a very high expression of being an adult. Taking care of myself, taking care of the people in my immediate future, and as time will tell, but it's very much my intention to be able to care for future generations that I'll never meet by creating a culture and an environment where integrity is present, love is present, inspiration is present, surrender to God is present, sovereignty is present, And that to me would be a very high form of being an adult. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, that's
Oh, and then I'm sorry, I guess I'm not going to pause there. So,
okay.
uh, false alarm. Uh, One of the things I say about being a leader is a leader doesn't create followers, a leader creates leaders. If you're a quote unquote leader and you're beating up your people, keeping them small so you can be their leader, that's something else. That's a tyrant, I would say. A leader is someone who embraces the leadership within themselves and embraces leadership within others, and is, holding a space for people to ascend in their own leadership. And so now transferring that idea to adult. Adult is someone not only is tending to their own adultness, their ability to be strong and overflow that strength into others, but to actually develop adults around them. And that's we were just doing that at the table this morning. Like someone is resisting his adultness, and I confronted him on that. His job is to serve, support, and protect, not to hide behind a great volume of words that make very little sense. To me, that's something a child would do. You ask a child, what's going on, and a whole bunch of words come out that don't mean anything. Okay, so let's try that again. What's going on? And the answer to that question is a very simple answer. And I just got one more thing. So, love is simple, ego is complicated. And so when you ask love a question, the answer is yes, no, or very simple iteration of whatever the truth is. Ego, on the other hand, is very complicated. And you ask ego a yes or no question, and you'll get a paragraph that neither answers yes or no. And if you press further, it'll get more complicated, more subtle, more nuanced. And so the light is simple. Confusion and complexity serves the darkness. And so an adult is also someone who embraces simplicity and elegance over confusion and complexity. So that's new, and you heard it here first on the On Purpose podcast.
That's
Hot off the
amazing.
press.
So let your yes be yes and your no be no. That's
Yeah.
and is it is it bringing you closer or farther away from the thing that you're dedicated to?
Yeah. And as you were asking the question, what I heard was, is it bringing you closer or further away from God?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, there's a lot to unpack with what you just said, but I want to bring awareness to the questions that one has to ask themselves to even do that. And one stuck out for me was knowing someone's weaknesses or their superpower. You clearly indicated like, well, in the past, I was manipulating and I was, I had these, you talk about this, about having three ways of being that were developed
Yeah.
from a place of weakness. And so you thought that that was going to give you your own strength, and so would you talk about that just a little bit, because that I think would be really powerful.
Yeah, I'd love to. That's one of my favorite topics. Um, so childhood is inherently traumatic. Some people have a story that they had a great childhood, so I'm addressing you too. And that's not my story about my childhood. But I've heard some people say I had a great childhood. So but I'm including everybody. Childhood is inherently traumatic. To grow from child to, from baby to toddler to child to prepubescent to adolescent to young adult to holy shit, I'm the one everybody's looking for the answers or for protection. I remember, man, um, realizing one day, maybe it was like 16 or 17, I realized that very soon I was going to be the one that people were looking to for protection. And that was a very clarifying moment, like as a young man. And that was a very clarifying moment for me. I'm not comfortable in any way, shape, or form. Um, so childhood, growing through those stages is traumatic for a human being. It could be no other way. And many of us took the the master's course or the PhD or the postdoctorate. um, and uh, and so there's lots of opportunities where a child decides that they're not enough for life. And from a child psychology point of view, I'm can't really dig too deep into that. And, you know, that's probably a blessing for everybody.
Not enough time.
Yes, no problem. But there's three three developmental stages where a child decides in three different specific ways, but the overall vibe is I'm not enough. How I'm being is not enough. I need, like, I'm not enough the way I am. I need to be, and then fill in the blank. So mine were, um, I need to be tough. I need to be really interesting, like entertaining. Like my mother was somebody who didn't give me loving attention, or you know, uh, she wasn't concerned with me specifically. And so, but I could hold her attention if I was really interesting or entertaining. If I can make her laugh or come up with a topic that she was interested in and go deep in that topic, I could hold her attention for as long as I could hold her attention. So I got really good at, spinning stories and being funny and, making jokes and that kind of stuff. But it wasn't for me. I mean, it was for me in the sense that I was trying to get the love that a child seeks from his mother, but it wasn't like a beautiful self-expression of anything. I was like literally trying to get what I felt like, it was all unconscious. But anyway, so tough, entertaining or charming or whatever, and I have to be the best. Like, so whatever, I remember so many times, whatever's going down, athletics, smarts, creativity, being funny, having the best looking girlfriend. I mean, just anything. I had to be the best. And if I wasn't, it was just this whole thing. The toughest guy in the room, the funniest guy in the room, the smartest guy in the room, like it was just endless. And it wasn't from some inspired place. It was like survival. And so, I'm suggesting that everybody has these three moves, these three strategies for how to succeed in life. And, if you wonder what they are, it's probably what you put on your resume. I don't know if people do resumes anymore, but back in the day, writing your resume was a big thing. And so if I were writing a resume, so to tough, I would say, able to produce results in an adverse environment. I don't need money. I don't need hand holding. I don't, that kind of thing. And the employer looks at it and goes, yeah, I need somebody who doesn't need to be, that's great. Right. Uh, gets along well with others, can light up a room. Yeah, I want some of that. And extremely well trained in these 37 things, like need to be the best at things, and I would figure out how to numerically describe my previous performance. I was number one in territory. I was in sales, right? So, the largest territory in my region, the largest percentage of growth, and I would find ways to demonstrate that I was the best. And so that looks great on a resume, but here's the thing. Every time I succeeded by being tough, funny, or the psychotic need to be the best at everything, I reinforced the idea that I wasn't inherently enough, because that's where they came from. One day I decided something was happening to a little boy who was scared to death, and he decided they need to be tough. And then one day another thing happened to a little boy who was scared to death, and he decided he needed to be entertaining to be worthy, to hold people's attention. And something else happened, and this by this time it was like I was adolescent, becoming a young man, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not good enough the way I am. I need to be the best. And there it was, boom. So then the sentence is cast, the prison is constructed, and you step in and you lock the door and you throw away the key. And from now on, I got three moves in life: funny, tough, and excellent. Not excellent in a high way, but like this desperation to be the best. And so every time I accomplished anything with one of those three things, that unconsciously the idea that I'm inherently not good enough, it was reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. So you can see it in people. we have a new leader here with us, and she has the uh, the charming thing or the entertaining thing. I recognize charmers from I can smell them a mile away. And she walks around with this ready smile and this ready joke, and she's very witty and quick and funny and charming and all the stuff, but she's not there.
Yeah.
Like this performance is there. And then you get into relationships with people, and you're funny or you're tough or you're, for me, and then I didn't get included in a relationship. So whatever someone fell in love with, was attached to, imprinted with, wasn't actually me. It was this mask that I've been carrying around my whole life. And so you go through life, most people go through their whole lives never noticing that how they win in life um, excludes them from the very life that they're trying to win in. And just to be clear, sometimes those winning strategies are in the negative. Like I get hurt every time I say anything, so I better be small. I better shut up. I better not rock the boat. And then you get people who are really meek, so it may not look like my winning strategy might not look like a winning strategy to you, and your winning strategy might not look like a winning strategy to me, but it was created by a child under duress, and that's really important. And so people live their lives with a 7-year-old under duress, terrified, driving their life. So a 60-year-old man could very easily be having their entire life driven by a 7-year-old who doesn't think they're good enough. So it's great to have kids in the car. We don't want to put them in the trunk, but we probably don't want to put them in the driver's seat either. So the upgrade is to distinguish the whole thing, and then actually realize that there is a you under there that has nothing to do with, like, there's a me in here that has nothing to do with being tough or being the best or being funny. And it's taken me some time to kind of let that out and then start navigating my own course. Like I choose to be generous, and I choose to be transformational. That means something to me. I choose to be a leader. I choose to be sovereign. I choose to be surrendered to God. And these are ways of being that I've chosen from a high resonance rather than from a 7-year-old under duress. And so, I've had people argue, well, that's inauthentic as well because you're creating it. Well, I don't think so. I'm creating it from inspiration and from love, and because there's a future that I find beautiful that I'd like to keep stepping towards. And so I kind of see it like an artist with a palette, and that palette has a bunch of different colors. And I get to choose. I get to choose to be loving. I get to choose to be generous. I get to choose to be kind. I get to choose to be straight. I get to choose to be rigorous. I get to choose to be integrous. Whereas before, I never chose, and there was 3 buttons. There's 3 colors only, and I never got to choose them. I never got to mix them, and I didn't even know that I was limited to those 3 things. Like it's like you don't see the air that you breathe, and yet if the air wasn't there, you would notice it very quickly. Well, these 3 ways of being, I never saw it. I just thought that's who I was, and that's how life was. And so now I get to actually be, I get to just be, period. And from there, I get to be whatever I want to be and have that be my full, sovereign, loving self-expression to move towards whatever I find beautiful and whatever I'm committed to.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love what you had said previously about you did those things in the past seeking something, right? You were seeking rather than being the thing that you were.
Survival,
Yeah.
specifically.
And so you only had those modes of operation. And every time that it would get flared up, you're like, oh, wait, now I've got to be this. And it's on record. It's like just a repeating record that just keeps
Yeah.
on. And then now choosing something, making it your conscious decision and your conscious choice, it sounds more like you're found and you're finding yourself. And there is no more seeking because the way of being is present. It's like, I'm the thing. I'm no longer asking my outside, my reflection to be this thing. I'm choosing to be this in the world, be the change that you wish to see. and so just thank you for recognizing that and being that for all of us. And it really wants me to bring inside of this right now is like asking yourself these questions, whoever's watching, is what 3 ways of being is present right now? Like, what am I running on repeat? What am I doing on, what's coming up for you? I see you.
Thank you. So it's hard to find sometimes, and so it's your strategy for success, and it might be counterintuitive. Your strategy for success might be keep your head down, but like it's the perfectionist, it's the jokester, it's the smart. Like if you ever meet somebody with 3 or 4 PhDs, ask them if as a child they thought they were stupid, and I've never had somebody say no.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
like that kind of inverse quality. Like I didn't feel strong enough, so I created being tough. I didn't feel loved or noticed, so I created being really, interesting and entertaining. I didn't feel successful, so I chose having to be the best.
Yeah.
So it can often have that inverted quality to it, but it's something you might put on a resume. It's literally your recipe for success under duress. So, and then it's not your recipe for success as an adult. You have to remember it got created when you were maybe 5 or 6, and then maybe 7 or 8, and then or 11 or 12, and then maybe 15 or 16 or 17. These events happen, and you were just overwhelmed, like you just weren't enough for life, and you unconsciously just like, oh, I need to be tough. Oh, I need to be funny. Oh, I need to be the best. And so it's what a child would decide under extreme duress for survival, and it's a strategy for success. And once you see it, you'll see it all over your life.
Yeah. Oh. And if you need support with that, we're here at Earth Making Village.
It's our pleasure.
There'll be some links in the chat for people, some support. Oh man.
Actually, this would go great with the message mastermind. So you can put that link in there. This would be great because
Yeah. Oh,
then you can turn that pain, that mess into a message. And there are people that are trapped in that, their strategies for survival, right? There are people who are trapped in that, that if you transcend yours, like if I meet a tough guy who really just wants to be an open-hearted, connected, loving person, which is, I was a very sweet child, believe it or not. I was quiet and sweet. And then life started happening. I started making decisions. But when I meet the tough guy who I can see is trapped behind the need to be tough, or if I meet the charmer that I can see is trapped between having to be the charmer, or if I meet the person who's got to be great at everything, like, oh, I see you, I see you. So I've got a message for that mess. And so will anybody that's listening. Once you transcend your unconscious winning strategy, you can create something beautiful, and then you can help your brother, you can assist your brothers and sisters, give them a hand up into the light, into freedom.
I love that. And that's Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. I will put that link in the chat.
Thank you. Nice.
You're welcome. The big thing about developing oneself as a resource is the balance between being that resource and being a resource for yourself. So how
Yes.
do you prioritize self-care inside of your daily life, and how does that look? What does that look like?
Well, how I do it is by first not doing it for years, and literally all like I was in my mid-20s. I owned a copier dealership, which is a whole story unto itself, which you know but I was an angry workaholic until my transformation, until my big transformation. So I was an angry workaholic, and the copier industry is, this was in the 80s. So the copier industry was extremely competitive, extremely brutal, and fast paced, and all that. And I, managed to get myself in an ownership position in a dealership. And I'd get there early. I'd work, just give it everything I got all day. I'd work late, and just week after week after week, just super super intensity. So I'm in my mid-20s, and I'm in New Orleans, and it's spring or summer or whatever. It's not winter. It's I mean it's no, it's actually winter. So it's not summer. This is an important bit of the story. So it's winter. And one day I wake up and my entire body is red. Not red like a fire engine red, but red like sunburn. And to the touch, it felt like sunburn. Now it's winter in New Orleans. So I wasn't sunburned because I spent too much time in the sun. It was something else. And it freaked me out. Like my clothes hurt like it does when you have sunburn, that kind of stuff. And I go to the doctor and I get this old back. So this was in the 80s. So back in the 80s, this guy was from back in the day. So, whatever that is. And he looks at me, he goes, son, he examines me real quiet, making little grunting noises like, like I do now. And, he goes, son, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to do something else. Like, what do you mean? He says, son, this is stress. You need to figure something out. This is not, you're too young to have this. My hair that was like my hair started turning gray. And anyway, so that's an example of doing more than your best, overextending yourself. People do more than their best. I mean, some people do. I've noticed not everybody does.
Most people.
Well, some people just don't do anything, right? So to the
Oh,
people
yeah,
who
that's
are
true.
productive, right? I know there's a lot of people who sit around and wait for other people to do shit. So move
I
that
see what you're saying. Polarization.
Yes, right. So for the people who are productive, right? Many of those people do more than their best. And when you do more than your best, you set yourself up for failure. And then, so that was one example. Later on in my leadership career, and I'm now in my 40s, I was in a rigorous leadership training environment, being trained and training others and all the things. And man, my schedule was just crazy. Full-time job, 20 hours plus of leadership work and study, and then plus study and preparation and debriefing for the events I was leading. So it was super intense. Weekends, evening, like I had my day and my evening day and my weekend days and my weekend evenings. They were all like, scheduled. And I remember not obviously not feeling good. And I remember actually being so tired that my bones hurt, like literally my bones hurt. I don't know how else to describe it, but I could feel my bones hurting. And I just really did not feel good. There's incredible fatigue. And I remember thinking, I need to take some time off. And I started really looking through my schedule, and I was literally scheduled every day, every evening for months out. And that was not a good feeling. And so, I somehow managed to muscle through that, but very shortly after, like I just had to quit. Like I was financially exhausted, I was emotionally exhausted, I was physically exhausted, I was psychologically exhausted, like big time. Not like it wasn't like a weekend and I was all good to go. I mean, I was run down. And that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And and I know that might be an extreme story, but it's not a unique story. And so I really got the value of taking care of yourself in that experience. And so I lead a leadership program here called Visionary Program, and we have 36 distinctions, and one of them is receiving and self-care. And so many of those same people are terrible receivers. So people who don't take care of themselves are often terrible receivers. I was guilty of both. And so there's an inauthenticity there. There's a dysfunction there in giving and receiving are opposite sides of the same coin. And if you keep trying to give without receiving, which is what a lot of good people do, that comes to an end. That road does have an end to it. And uh, many people love to give, and then they find out a couple years later they're broke and tired and resentful and exhausted, that sort of thing. So if you want to be a great giver, you must first be a great receiver. If you want to be a great contribution, you must learn how to take care of yourself. because that also has, that road is also finite. That road does have an end to it. And then I think it was the Four Agreements. One of the agreements is there's a book called Four Agreements. I can't remember the author right now, but it's pretty famous, small
Don
book.
Miguel Ruiz.
Thank you. Yeah, highly recommend it. But one of the four agreements is to do your best, and under that is not more than your best. Definitely do your best, because otherwise you leave like with second guessing yourself and incomplete, and but if you do more than your best, you're again reinforcing the idea that your best is not enough. And if what you're up to is important, and I consider what I'm up to is important, I consider what my community is up to is important, then taking care of yourself is as important as whatever you're up to. And and so that's the world of receiving and self-care for me. Receiving is on the outside. If you want to be a great financial contribution to people, you must be able to receive great financial contributions. If you want to be a contribution in leadership, if you want to lead people and be a contribution, you must be able to follow and receive contribution. And if you want to be around for more than a couple years or a couple months or whatever, then it's important that you take care of yourself, because the people who you're influencing, the people who respect you and love you, are not listening to your words, they're looking at what you do. And so if you're giving and giving, giving and running yourself into the ground and suffer poor health and resentment and exhaustion and that kind of stuff, they will surely follow in your footsteps. So that's receiving and self-care. I don't remember quite how you asked the question, but that's the world of receiving and self-care.
No, I love that, because that goes straight to the point of only doing your best.
Yes.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you got to have a team.
Yeah.
And it really aligns like with your priorities and your values. And it's developing yourself as a resource has to do with self-awareness, has to do with what am I prioritizing my time with, and how am I really giving my energy to other people, and am I receiving? I love that. The world gets blessed when I receive, so I love that. That's in the distinction, and it's like, yes, it's very true. And so questions to even ask myself was, what habits did I have to release, and what habits did I have to pick up? What did I give away when I was a child that I loved doing? That, like poetry or getting out in nature or having fun. Like, it's okay to have fun. And so there's definitely those questions that come up, and that it's so important. Like, people forget about those things that they did that just brings them so much light, connection, and love. So the other question that I have is, what was it? You really have dedicated your life to building yourself to be of service to your community, and to build meaningful relationships. And having that being such a really key element to how you operate in your life. Like, I don't really know the question, but
Well, there's something coming through.
all right. I'm just really present to that awareness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that was a reaction to my childhood, raised by a woman who was not well. I would say either sociopathic or a narcissist. And what I mean by that is there was never any good attention on me. It was always her extracting whatever she needed. Always took care of herself first. There was never like any kindness or love or good attention or that kind of thing. And uh, which seemed normal to me at first because that's all I had known. And then as I started interacting with other families, I was like, hey, she actually did that for like, she actually made lunch for you. She actually like said, I love you. And there was a hug. Oh my God. Like, I just like, as I grew up, it was just like more and more awareness that how I experienced life was very different than other people around me. And then, so, as awareness continued, I had judgment and anger initially, especially in my teenage years. And I was just really present to the selfishness of that selfishness. And so part of it, the low side of it is I became a hero. Once I got some capacity and could stand on my own 2 feet, I had experienced a lot of pain. And once I got a little stronger, I could see other people in pain. And one of the things about being raised in the way that I was is it developed, I believe they're connected, a great intuition. I have great sensitivity to where people are at energetically. And I think I developed that from my survival. So I could walk into a room and see if it was safe to come in, and whatever it was. I could keep getting her attention if I could just play her, like just say exactly the right things at the right moment. So I gained this great sensitivity to where people are at and how to kind of hold their attention or move them to the next place or whatever. So I became a hero, and I became really good at taking people's pain away from them, saying just the right thing at the right time or the right, right words or whatever it was. Um, so that's on the low. Being a hero is actually not heroic. It's not noble, because ultimately I was doing it for myself. I was doing it for so I could feel better about myself if I could see a poor victim and make them my victim, and I could spin my little spells, and they would feel better than I would get a hit of being noble and being, finally I could experience myself as a good person and capable of something or whatever. Um, but later, as I grew up and sort of had my transformation and started developing myself, that became being a contribution, and that's a very different thing. Helping people is for you. Being a contribution is for them. I kind of look at it that way. And then just very recently, which is what I heard, I'm just kind of building up to it. Since meeting John and getting introduced to the Bible and God in a whole new way, and there's 2 stories in the Bible that I resonate with, which is one is it's Peter, right? Peter's the so yeah yeah so one little scene, Jesus is telling Peter that he needs to go to Jerusalem and be hurt. That he's like, this is not going to be good, and Peter says, this will not happen.
Not on my watch.
Yeah, not on my watch. It's not gonna happen on my watch. And Peter was, perhaps Jesus's main dude. He's the one that walked on water. So by outward appearances, he would appear to be this really, really incredibly connected, the main guy sort of thing. And not on my watch will this happen. And Jesus says to him, "Stand behind me, Satan." Which is, well, so the next scene is Judas is walking up to Jesus, getting ready to betray him by kissing him on the cheek to betray him to the guards. And as he comes to Jesus, Jesus says to him, "Do what you came to do, friend." And so those seem counterintuitive until you see that Peter was Jesus's body friend. So Peter was trying to protect Jesus's body, but Jesus was operating from a whole other dimension. He was serving the will of God, and he knew what his path needed to be. And so Judas was betraying Jesus's body, but serving Jesus's soul. In my view, Judas is one of the most noble individuals in history. This is going to be controversial, and I've gotten in trouble for this before, but Judas agreed to be the most condemned man in history, perhaps, to do what he was asked to do in service of Jesus's journey. I don't know if I would say yes to that. And what he gets for that is not rewarded, but condemned throughout history, where his very name is a rebuke to people. Judas. But actually, He just did his job. He did what he was asked. Peter, on the other hand, did not do what he was asked and got in Jesus's way, and he celebrated. So I just think that's an interesting reality that I've never actually heard anybody talk about. So anyway, so in those two stories, I created a commitment. I've spent my whole life, well, I spent many decades serving my body, you know, lust and sex and drugs and adventure and that sort of thing. And my friendships were mostly about pleasure and desire and feeling good and my reputation, and being able to be funny and being celebrated, being able to be good at stuff and being celebrated, being able to be tough and push people around or manipulate people, usually not physically, but whatever. And so there's this whole world of worshiping my mind and serving my body's desires, my animal desires. And so I was like, wow, so I have made a declaration that I'm kind of known for around here. I'm no longer seeking body friends. I'm only seeking soul friends, which is very simplifying. I have much fewer interactions that I don't care for. People are very clear. I'm not interested in like hanging out and whatever. I'm like, if you want to talk about transformation, if you want to talk about serving God, if you want to talk about serving our mission, if you want to talk about waking up and creating, ascending into yourself as a resource, if you want to talk about heaven on earth, if you want to talk about serving John or serving the mission, I'm down. If you want to, talk about something else, I'm probably not the guy for you. And it's been wonderful for me. I'm not sure that everybody loves it, but I love it. And it's assisted me in being productive and successful in the way that I'd like to be productive and successful.
And it also teaches people how to relate to you.
Yes, yes. Yes, I try to be clear.
Like, hey,
this is for you.
We're not going to go get fucking wings and a beer, watch the ball game. We're not doing it.
Right, so stop asking. Right.
I love that.
Sometimes people come in and they literally just want to hang out with me and talk about nothing. And I get it. I did all that. I get it.
Yeah.
So that's what came through when you were kind of trying to find your question, and I'm open to whatever.
No, I appreciate that so much. It brings the awareness of like invest in yourself. Whoever's watching this, like take the time to invest in yourself and like actually receive, first and fill up your cup. It reminds me of like we're going through life, and we get handed down things from generation to generation, and no, the trauma is not your fault. You're not guilty of that, but it is your responsibility to heal it and heal from it, or you're just going to keep passing it down to the next person and the next person on people who didn't even cut you. And I'm feeling that very emotionally right now because I've been that person, and now being inside of this container, being inside of Earthquaking and what it's done for me is me investing inside of myself. I now get to be this person who's healed, person who's transformed so many things that I could not even possibly even think imaginable, and things are happening around me where I'm actually a resource for people. And the way that they see me now is completely different, and ways that I couldn't even think of seeing myself, because somebody saw my greatness. Somebody decided to see something worthy in there, and held that space for me to develop myself into being somebody of character, to be a woman of character. And I just really, really appreciate that. So if that sounds like you and you want to be healed on this journey, I recommend getting support from us. You can connect with us at www.earthwakingvillage.com. There's also going to be other resources like the Mess to Message Masterclass and the Visionary Leadership Program down in the chat for you. And I just highly, highly recommend these courses and ways of developing yourself. Go ahead.
There's a lot of resources here that are completely free, and so there's just really a lot here. This phrase that we use a lot really is coming through hard, and it's right in line with your wrapping things up. Hurt people, healed people, heal people, really hurt people, really hurt people, really healed people, really heal people. Hurting people are hurting people. Healing people are healing people. And so, and then there's two sides that I'm really present to. Is first of all, you're worth it. You're worth the work that it takes to heal yourself. But a lot of people, and I think including me, won't do very much for themselves. Like that's been really an arduous, long journey to value myself enough to do something for yourself. So if you want to do it for yourself, the people in your life who are looking up to you, the people who love you are worth it for you to heal yourself, because every day that you continue allowing yourself to be resentful, angry, suffer, live in judgment, every day you continue to hurt people because you're hurting, because you can only guide people in the direction that you're located. And so if you won't do it for yourself, and I recommend doing it for yourself because I know that you're worth it. The most powerful leaders I've ever met, the people who are the brightest lights and the biggest contribution, have come from incredible darkness and pain and suffering. So if that's you, I know that you're worth it. But if that won't do it, then do it for the people that love you. Boom.
Mic drop. Just really, really present to the gratitude that I feel for you, Kirk, and for you going first. It is our responsibility, and think about it, just everyone loved themselves enough. They would never need to seek it from anybody outside of themselves, and like you're worth it. You're so worth it. I'm reminded of a quote from Corinthians. We're in this race called life. And as an athlete, we're runners, we're all running in the race. But in our previous life, we're running to try to just win this prize. And that prize is going to fade away, and only one person gets it. But here we don't do that. We all get it because we're expressing something that's of an eternal price. It's something that doesn't fade away. And I'm really reminded of God's will. People think that it's like, oh, it's my career path. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is God's will. This is my purpose. But what happens if you break your leg? What happens if you're a singer and you lose your voice? What happens if, you're very intellectual and you really good at playing mind games, or I don't know. When that's set down, what's really left? It's the condition of your heart. It's how you made somebody feel in your presence. It's how you left them with an essence of you. And so that's what we're really here about, is to bring something of eternal. It's your spirit, it's your soul. And so thank you, Kurt, for representing that and being that.
Super welcome.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the On Purpose podcast. I appreciate you and honor you. It's been a privilege to serve with you, Kirk, everyone here. So, again, support is for you inside of the links.
Amen.
Amen.